behalf of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you back as we begin a new season, the final season of Star Trek Lower Decks. And we are here to give you the lowdown on Lower Decks. And I am not alone. I am with my companion in crime, Mr. Joss Pruitt. Joss?
Nuchnech! Kapla! Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another season of Lowdown with Lower Decks.
There's just that new show season smell in the air. New time for us. New season. First episode. It's the last season, but we're going to go down in style.
Yes, we are, Chris. It's going to be really hard. I think that this is the Star Trek show that really got a lot of new fans interested, and it is great though to have uh, Beckett and Boimler and Tindy and Tallinn and Rutherford back for one more season before we have to say adieu. But we're going to make the most of the next several weeks of this show and share our thoughts and everything that everyone has come to expect from us over the last few years with Lower Decks. So here we are. We're ready to go.
We are, and we can do it.
Yes.
So without further ado, Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. Lower Decks.
So we start off with a ship full of precious treasures, and someone who looks really familiar is getting the tour, and then suddenly the ship is attacked by, of course, Orion pirates. But the owner of the ship is not very worried, as he says that they cannot penetrate his defenses, and he says he can manage the ship from his treasury. And at that moment, the true identity of his companion is revealed as none other but the mistress of the winter constellations, Tendi herself, who then overpowers the guards and manages to deactivate the defenses, allowing her pirate crew to board. And just as they're about to do the Orion pirate thing and kill everyone, she manages to tell them no, because I know traditionally we would spare one so they can spread fear, but imagine how much more fear we could spread if we allow all of the rest of them to live. And they can't argue with her logic. Meanwhile, where are her companions on these Cerritos? Well, they are fretting about the future. Mariner is concerned about having to have new ensigns assigned to her. Boimler is afraid that he's peaked out, and Rutherford is so consumed with work because he's using it as an outlet to not think about Tendi not being there. And so that's going to be the crux of the episode, which we have two storylines, what's going on with Tendi and what's going on with the Lower Deckers. And we start off with a bang that they encounter a spatial rift. And Beckett is like, another one of these. And it's not quite another one because this one suddenly increases in size and despite their best efforts, pulls them in. And Captain Freeman is about to tell them, let's go back the other way when they're hailed. And they're hailed by the Cerritos, captained by Becky Newman. Yes. And so we have encountered the alt universe Cerritos crew. Which universe is the prime and which isn't? That is for minds more like Data to try and figure out. But for right now, they decide that they need to combine forces to get them back into the, let's call it for now, our prime Cerritos universe. And so the most logical thing, of course, is for each person to team up with their counterpart. And it's remarkable and yet fascinating how alike each crew is, and yet it's not alike. And so from here, we move on to Tendi, where Tendi is asking what she needs to do to her sister Dianji to get back to the Cerritos, and her sister says, listen, I talked with a rogue archaeologist. Could that be Beckett's friend? Who knows? And she says, this is the revelation of a lost ship. It's a gigantic Orion ship, and it looks like a battle cruiser. And she's told, you bring me that back, and your debt is paid in full, and you can return to the Cerritos. And Joss, how about I will do the Tendi timeline here, and do you want to handle the Cerritos crew?
Okay, then. So, thank you, Chris. So what happens is Cerritos 1 and 2, we find out that yes, there are clear personality differences between the two different crews, and it becomes very evident when Beckett and her counterpart, Captain Beckett, are completely different because Beckett still wants to be the hot, impulsive junior officer that gets things done, but in a very unconventional way. And it seems as though Captain Beckett is just got basically a bad temper towards her crew. She's really not the fun Beckett we know. She seems quite angry and has a chip on her shoulders. And when there are conflicts between both crews, she starts throwing her own crew members into the brig, which seems a bit excessive, especially since they're on a time schedule to get things done. But it seems like this is what she does. I wouldn't say that this was nearly the mirror Terran Empire universe, but it's certainly a very different universe than what we know. Well, finally, our Beckett, goes to talk with her, and suddenly Captain Beckett stuns her. And when Beckett wakes up, uh, Captain Beckett has changed uniforms with her, becoming the Lieutenant Junior Grade Beckett, and that she is planning to go aboard our Cerritos and go back to our universe and start being the impulsive hothead she was because she does not like being the captain at all. Part of it could just be because nobody likes her as the captain. And so at this point, she's escaping, and Beckett has to get out of a pair of handcuffs that she's been left in. And when she does, she rushes to the bridge and says that she's not their Captain Beckett and that they need to bring back the Cerritos before it gets through the aperture. Um, Chris, what's going on with Tindy at this point?
Well, Tendy's on her way to recover the ship with her Orion crew, and they arrive, they find the ship, and they board it, and all is going well until the appearance of the dastardly blue Orions. And so, despite Tendy's best efforts, a firefight breaks out, and one of the Orion women manages to wound mortally, so with a stab uh, to the side, one of the blue Orions. And then they decide to go looking for the bridge. And Tendy says, well, wait a second. I want to make sure this guy really is dead. But she's still got that Starfleet in her. And so she actually saves him, which totally confuses the Blue Orion because he's like, wait a minute, you're saving me? You're supposed to kill me. Later on, they're still making their way up to the deck, but they are beaten by the Blue Orions who get into the turbo lifter and they're heading towards the bridge. And the Orion women then decide, well, what you did was not cool and we're going to kill you. But we're talking about the mistress of the winter constellations here, people. Like, there's no way they can overpower her. She single-handedly overpowers all of them. And then there's a moment of truth where she says, listen, I don't really want to kill anyone. And they say, we don't want to kill anyone either. And they reveal each one what they want to do. One of them wants to be a dancer. One of them wants to go to the university. So they all don't want to be doing the pirate thing. It's a means to a goal. And so they decide to cooperate, and Tendi realizes this is a medical frigate back to the days when there was a plague all throughout the Orion system, and they rig the ventilation system to release anesthetic gas, which is the equivalent of laughing gas, and they use that to overpower the Blue Orions and have a laugh while they're doing it. And then once the Blue Orions are incapacitated, we have liftoff, and Tendi is successfully taking the ship back to De Erica, which will then allow her to go back to the lower decks crew. And speaking of the lower decks crew, Josh, take us home with them.
Okay, so the Beta Cerrito. Sorry, guys. The Beta Cerritos manages to disable the Prime Cerritos, and it is then revealed that apparently the Captain Freeman of their universe got shipped off to Starbase 80, which, as you recall, is the worst starbase in the Federation. Um, by her own daughter, no less. And so when they find out that they are carrying Captain Beckett, the Cerritos beams her back to their Cerritos and our Beckett back to our Cerritos. And their Beckett is promptly put under arrest and sent off to the brig for desertion, obviously. So then our Cerritos returns to our universe, and Beckett sees her instance coming into 10 forward, where, obviously this is going to set up for, the new, bigger responsibilities that she's going to be undertaking because our girl is growing up. And meanwhile, everybody's kind of come through it feeling a lot better about themselves. But obviously, Rutherford is still missing Tendi quite a bit, which is going to carry over into the next episode. Chris?
So true. And on that note, just as we thought Tendi was going to get our happy ending and return to the readers, oh no, we find out that the Blue Orions, because as a consequence of what happened acquiring that ship, have declared war on House Tendi. And you cannot have war without the mistress of the Winter Constellation to defend her home. So she's sticking around to help out her household, which then leads us into episode 2, which is Shades of Green. And so we start off with a sisterly moment. Erica and Tendi are like having fun together. They enjoy being sisters after being apart for so long. And then Tendi notices Erica gets kind of sick. And she's like, what's going on? Like, I can help you because he has a medical training background. And she says, no, just leave it. I'm going to be fine. Walks off. But, Tendi's concerned and goes into her sister's quarters, looks up her personal logs, and we find out she's pregnant. Like, oh no. And she's wondering, it's great, I'm going to be an aunt, but why hasn't she told me? And then both houses get summoned before the Pirate Queen. We did not know there was a Pirate Queen, but there is. And so they dispute what happened on the ship and that Tendi behaved not quite like a pirate and she didn't kill the guy. And so everything must be settled with a solar race. And the losing household will lose everything. And Erica stands up and says, like, I'm going to do this. I will lead the ship. That's one part of the Shades of Green of our episode. Josh, do you want to talk about the other part of the Shades of Green?
Yes. So we go back to the Cerritos, and Rutherford is working on the broke down shuttlecraft that we've seen them trying to fix for the last several seasons. Well, Talen comes in and wants Rutherford's help with something, but Rutherford's like, yeah, he's trying to get this. He's trying to do this. And he gets called away. So Talen just starts helping to finish repairing the shuttle. Meanwhile, Boimler and Beckett are down on a new world that has just given up capitalism in favor of a post-scarcity civilization and is joining the Federation. So, they're going around helping them burn their money and get rid of all their jewels and all the unwanted, burdens of capitalism. And, it's becoming a real party for all the people that didn't have anything and now suddenly are about to have better lives. So Beckett and Boimler decided, hey, they're going to cut some slack on their young junior instance, and they're going to go have a little fun for about an hour and join in the party. What can it hurt? Well, unfortunately, the ensigns get kidnapped by the now deposed capitalists, which is really bad. So, of course, Beckett and Boimler have to go rescue them. Chris, what's going on now with the Orions?
The race has started, and it's through a complicated asteroid field where there's a lot of radiation. They have to go retrieve a treasure at the end of the asteroid field, and then they have to zoom back. And we have the start. The Erica's at the helm, and Tendy's trying to do everything possible to make the voyage as comfortable as possible because he knows he's carrying her niece or nephew. And what happens is that C decides to stage a cutiny. And by the way, for all of you viewers out there, if you want to stay until the end, it's very possible you might see Joss and I stage a cutiny of our own. Just say. So the cutiny happens as well as they tend to happen, and they're in the race. But the Blue Orions, they're playing dirty, and they shoot through one of their solo sets. And in the dispute of Derica trying to take back her command and the ship crashing, she tells Tendi, "Everyone here knows that I'm pregnant except you." And Tendi's like, "Wow." And she says, "But there's a reason why, because if I had told you, you would have to transfer your title of Mistress of the Winter Constellations to your niece, and it's revealed it's going to be a girl. And that means you'd have to stay for 15 years training her. And I know you want to go back to Starfleet." So this is just the older sister looking after the younger sister. And so then Tendi sees a comet and decides, you know what, we're still in this race. And so she grabs a special harpoon, harpoons the comet, attaches it to the ship, and they get a big turbo boost as they now follow the comet, which is chasing after the Blue Orions, and they end up catching the Blue Orions, and they do what Orions will do, and they board their ship. They take the treasure from them, and they end up in a tie. And before we find out what the Pirate Queen rules about the tie, Josh, let's go back to you.
Okay, so Beckett and Boiler contact the Cerritos and find out that apparently the capitalists have been staging small-scale attacks against Starfleet around the planet. So they're on their own with trying to rescue their ensigns. And they try to sneak into one of the mansions that the capitalists own and discover that it's guarded by robot gardeners who are obviously inept at what they're doing. And yes, it's about as ridiculous as it sounds. And they get taken down to a makeshift wine cellar turned into jail, where they find their ensigns apparently dead.
Oh no!
Oh no! They're dead! And suddenly the capitalists freak out because we didn't want to kill anybody. We just wanted to hold some hostages. Oh, we got to get out of here or we're going to go to jail. Oh, wait, we'll go live out in a hole out in the desert. That sounds great. Let's go live in the hole out in the desert. They run away. And it turns out the ensigns were being actually quite clever. They took some sort of microbe that slowed down their immune response, their heart rates and everything. So kind of like, going into a Vulcan trance or something. And they come out of it and they're not dead. And so Beckett and Boiler, they escape the makeshift jail. And when they get back and they find out that the citizens are going to burn up all their jewelry, which is going to play into something I'm going to let Chris talk about. But going back to the Cerritos itself, Rutherford comes back from what he was doing to find that T'Lyn has finished the shuttle, and Boiler's kind of heartbroken because this was something he and Tendi were working on, and he was just waiting for her to come back so they could finish it together. Well, after Tendi, well, Chris, you want to go next? What has the Pirate Queen decided?
We have a tie. They go before the Pirate Queen. And Tendi is saying, well, we tied, so both houses should keep all the revenues. And the Pirate Queen is like, that's not how it works here. We're pirates. We're not Starfleet. If you both tied, that means you both lose. Like, the Orion pirates will take all of the loot accumulated by both houses and leave you destitute. And so Tendi's walking away with her parents and her sister, and she's like, I'm so sorry. But they're like, it might be okay not to be a great house, because just think of all the free time we'll have of, not have joy about being assassinated. And then there's a very cool moment between the sisters where she says, like, "C will be the new mistress of the Winter Constellations. Will you come back and train her?" And she says, "Absolutely, yes. I'm still part of this family." So you get a great family vibe here. And then we see them next aboard the Cerritos, because remember, they've been destitute of all the wealth accumulated, but no one said anything about the wealth they could gain. And so, um, because the people on Targalis 9 have done away with all the money and jewels and precious metals, someone needs to take that somewhere. And so Tendi and her house volunteered to help out the Cerritos, and Captain Freeman is all for anything that increases diplomacy between Starfleet and the Ryans. And so they take away all the gold and the jewels. I should say their newly hired minions, the Blue Orions, take it away from them. And while Tendi says her dad was looking forward to pillaging again, but they are back in business and they are back to being a wealthy house.
Yes. And then when they return, Tindy and Rutherford go back down to the shuttle bay where the shuttle is supposed to have been rebuilt, and Talen has pulled it all apart. So she's, "Oh dear, it's all fallen apart. I guess you two will have to fix it again." And they're excited, and they friendship all around. And meanwhile, Beckett and Boimler have realized that, yeah, maybe it was not the smartest thing, but to, decide to, have a little fun. But at the same time, nobody got hurt, and the ensigns, everything worked out okay. So no harm done. Um, and I believe that is where the episode ends for this week, isn't it, Chris?
Scene.
Scene, yes. So that was a very good double feature. A nice return for season 5, the final season of Star Trek Lower Decks. And hopefully, I believe the writing for the rest of the season should be on par. So, Chris, I believe we have some thoughts that we will bring up now in our usual segment of the good, the bad, and the Gorn.
Joss,
So,
each season premiere, I think, wow, this is the best. They can't do better. And yet, the next season premiere, they do better. And so
yes,
I have to say, I think this is the best season premiere of all 5 seasons they've had. Um,
yes,
it was just fantastic, starting us off with a Mirror Universe episode and like the emphasis on the facial hair. I mean, Boimler with a complete Riker style, like, goatee and beard, like awesome.
yeah,
And so many good things here. I'll start us off with I liked the fact that the Tindy situation is not wrapped up in one episode. It would have been easy to do it in just one episode and send her back, but they actually stretch it out to two. So I really like that from a storytelling perspective. And I also thought there was an underlying theme of empowerment, of you can be who you choose to be rather than what people tell you what to be. And I thought that played out really well, not only with Tendi, who is told she has to be the mistress of the winter constellations and a pirate and do what pirates do, but she doesn't want to do that. She refuses that. But also in her crew, when at that key moment they say, like, listen, I'm just doing this as a means to do what I really want to do. Like, I don't want to be pirating. I don't want to be stabbing people. I want to do this or that. So I thought that was a great theme of empowerment.
as did I, Chris. I think that, you know, too often, you have a lot of things, and I wish we'd see this with more of the cultures throughout Star Trek, that you don't have to be. We saw some of this like in Enterprise when we encountered several Vulcans that had rejected the whole logic thing and wanted to kind of be free spirits. Um, we don't really get to see that though with a lot of groups, and the fact that you had these Orion women who just like, I don't really want to be a pirate. I want to be in the arts. I want to do something else. And of course, we've seen that with Tendi. She didn't want to be a pirate. She wanted to be a physician. And unfortunately, she kept getting dragged back into the family business. Um, so it's been very difficult for her. But like, with the majority of say like Klingons or Romulans, they've all been like, oh, yes, I'm going to go be in the military and bring honor and glory to my family. Um, so it would be nice to see more of that play out with different characters in different races in Star Trek. Like maybe there are more Vulcans out there that are like, I don't really want to be a scientist or in Starfleet. I want to go off and I want to do abstract art, or I want to do French ballet, or I want to, study tribal husbandry, which that doesn't sound like a particularly, it sounds like a very redundant career, don't you think?
Perhaps. I also liked the emphasis, though not as much as on Tendi, but on Tallinn, of how you see she's attempting to bond and socialize with the crew, as when at the end, after noticing that her alter universe says remarkable, she says remarkable on purpose to throw everyone off, and they think, oh my God, wait a minute, we got the wrong Tallinn here. She's like, no, no, I did it on purpose. Or when she figures out that, okay, Rutherford is depressed, so she thinks what will cheer him up is if she fixes up the Sequoia, which she does. And then when she realizes, oh, this is not quite what he needed, she breaks it down into pieces again because she realizes that's what he really needs. So I love the fact that she, through the writers, is trying to like socialize more and be bond with the crew.
Yeah. I think that's the thing we've seen with a lot of Vulcans in Star Trek, going back to Spock and to Paul and Tuvok is, okay, yes, we have to be true to ourselves. We have to be logical. This is how we were raised, but we're among a lot of non-Vulcans, and even logic has to give way to loneliness. Um, Spock pointed out in season 2 of Strange New Worlds when he was made fully human that he underwent these social activities because he kind of felt like it was expected of him. Um, but it was difficult. On the other hand, it's not easy for him to grasp, but he's trying. Because he doesn't want to just sit in his quarters all day, reading on being logical and being by himself. He needs to have social interaction. I mean, I think that all life in the universe, at least in the Star Trek universe, needs company of some type. I mean, you know, Worf certainly needed the companionship of his crewmates on both the Enterprise and Deep Space Nine. Um, Data needed it. Everybody needs somebody. And I think the fact that Tallinn is making that effort is really speaks volumes of her. That it's been too easy, I think, over the past several years of Star Trek when we've seen Vulcans like on Discovery that they've come off as these cold, completely logical, and that kind of flies in the face of a lot of Vulcans we've known in previous Star Treks that they're not, well, yes, they're logical, they're analytical, but they're not withdrawn. And I think I think Tendi was kind of being in that great tradition of Vulcan characters we've had in Star Trek.
The other thing I liked a lot about this episode was the visual representation of the solar sails. I mean, up until now, we've only seen the Bajorans using solar sails. But when you think pirates, don't you think like, pirate ships with sails? So it was just awesome to see like, the Orions on a solar sail barge,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just like what pirates do.
Yeah, I think that was a really good twist, is having it being like this solar sail deal, and that why would the Bajorans be the only ones to have come up with something like this? Why not the Orions or some other species in the galaxy? Yeah, you got to think there's something very romantic to the concept of the pirates and sailing and the rigging and all that cool stuff. I don't think it would be very practical in the real world, but it's cool. Although I don't know, maybe we did. If anybody here watched the Netflix series The Three Body Problem, of course they have the whole solar sail thing in that. Of course, it doesn't. Spoiler alert: it didn't work very well, but it's still the same concept. So you know,
So, Josh, I'm going to close us out on the good because I finally realized why we're only getting 5 seasons.
oh why?
Because they cannot possibly cram any more things into the opening credits of the Borg Cube. We have the Vija Cloud, we have Apollo's hand, we
And
have
the
uh,
crystalline entity, the Romulans, the
Guardians.
Klingons, the
There's just no more room to cram anything
yes,
else in there. So they have to end it at this season.
right. No, it's you're running out of space there, and you know you're gonna get to the point. What are you gonna have like the gangsters from the episode, a piece of the action shooting from in spacesuits with machine guns? I no, it's I don't know. Yeah, it is kind of. Oh, you forgot to mention the Tholian web now too is in
Building
there.
web, yeah.
The Tholian web was in there. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, the V and yeah, they pretty much crammed every adversary major threat that the Federation has had into that one little scene. That that they're all fighting each other, and it's like, yeah, okay, the Cerritos doesn't get in the middle of that. No, and backs off. Let them fight it out amongst themselves, and yeah, that was quite cool. So I like the fact that they had that going on, and you know, you're right. There's nothing left to really put in there. I mean, well, no, there is other stuff, but it's just yeah, okay, no, we can't
There's
do
no more
anything
real
next.
estate. There's no more real estate.
No more real estate. It's all eaten up now. One other thing I liked, I liked the fact that in the second episode, Shades of Green, how they really threw some heat onto a lot of these tech billionaires like Elon Musk and others who are all talking about, going out and building their underground bunkers or moving to Mars or something to get away from all of us and getting away from, calamity and stuff. And I also felt like that, how like, when they realize that they've screwed up and that they're going to go to jail, they decide to run away and go hide in a hole in the desert. How much this was like, okay, this was a dig at the Ayn Rand novel Atlas Shrugged, where all the, you know, billionaires and CEOs, decided to go into hiding and let civilization collapse. Well, obviously, um, they proved in this instance it doesn't look like civilization is going to collapse on this planet. It's probably going to thrive quite well in a post-capitalist civilization. So I thought that was really a nice twist there. Just shouting out there to you know fighting the man here, and finally the workers have won, and you know I thought that was really cool. It was a night, it felt really good, especially just digging on what's kind of going on in the world. So what did you think of that, Chris?
I agree.
Yeah.
Moving on to the bad.
Uh,
There wasn't anything can really say that was bad, except that now I can never trust a gardener ever again.
no, me neither. Yeah. My mom's a gardener too, but
Can't trust her now.
no, can't do it. Can't do it. No, she may try to put me in the brig or
Um,
lock me up or something,
so the bad is we might be seeing this final season. Carol's going to do something that's going to get her sent to Starbase 80.
Is she? Hmm.
I mean, that's where
Yeah.
her counterpart ended up.
Well, yeah, and she did briefly send Beckett there, and
True, and she's
you
talking
know,
to Ransom. Says like, "What did I do that could possibly get myself sent to Starbase 80?" I think we're going to see something happen.
uh, yeah. I mean, you know, well. I mean, maybe the Cerritos causes the destruction of the Romulan homestar. Because we're kind of tying in. We've noticed that we made references to Picard here, and Like this is getting ready to are we kind of backing into that? Uh, because we never got an answer as to why that happened. So I wonder if we're going to find that out on lower decks before the series ends.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The,
Um,
the other bad I would say would be like, and I know they did this in tongue in cheek, but yeah, I mean clearly they could have used their scanners to like locate where the two infants have been kidnapped.
I could they. I thought they tried to do that and just couldn't. Something was blocking them.
No, it was Boimler who was blocking them because Becca tells us just tell like Ransom to scan for them, and then she says, "Let's go back to the shuttle. We can scan for them from the shuttle."
Yeah. Oh wait, and then yeah, he didn't want to get into trouble. He wanted. He thought they should just solve it themselves
I mean,
without.
it was a plot twist that they needed to justify them going out looking for them, but still, I was like, you could have just used like probably even a tricorder to find them.
Yeah, probably, but I think this ended up being a lot more fun. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but sometimes you just can't let the obvious get in the way of telling a good story. I mean, obviously if they'd found it wouldn't be as funny, and it wouldn't have been as good of a story. So sometimes you just gotta, but it would have been nice if they could have just made a little excuse about, well, why they couldn't use them. Just,
Radiation in the air or something.
yeah, something was blocking. Well, the capitalists probably could have used a device. Said, oh, they have a device that's blocking our scanners. So, yeah. But in any event, overall, I really enjoyed the episode, and I thought they did a lot of good stuff. And I guess we've got 8 more episodes to go.
May they all be very long.
Yes.
But now, if we want to talk about the Gorn, I have a very interesting question that was put forth for all of us viewers. Like, which really, which one really is the prime universe?
Uh,
Wouldn't we all think of our universe as being the prime universe?
yeah. I mean, I think we would think of it as that way. I mean, um, you have the Klingon saying, "Udun la huch dun push," which means our universe is the greatest. Um, so I don't know. I mean, obviously from a perspective, your universe is going to be the prime one, because what are you going to compare it to? You know, I mean, we all start. I think every universe, every timeline starts at the Big Bang. It's just every decision we've ever made. We've also made the opposite decision, and we've gone. The universe has gone in multiple directions. That's how you get a multiverse. Is just you went this way or that way. Somebody went this way, evolution went a certain way. Maybe the asteroid missed Earth and the dinosaurs still exist are still the dominant life forms of Earth today. Who knows?
So, how much do you think the knowledge that Boimler has brought back on that pad is going to play a role in the upcoming season? I mean, if you had a glimpse of your own future, what would you do to either make that happen or perhaps make it not happen?
Oh man. Well, the first thing I'd like to know is what's the lottery numbers for next week? Yeah, I'm all in favor of throwing down capitalism, but until we all do that, I kind of want a little something.
Hmm.
I need a little sugar here. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I think I would go to great lengths to, find out what's going to happen to me in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years if
I
I'm going
mean,
to live that long, and what I could do to, make changes. Is there anything I could do to change this and make my life either better or, you know,
I mean, he doesn't know what is going to happen like 5 or 10 years from now, but he does now know what Alt Boimler did, facial hair Boimler did to, get him to the position he did. So to me, it's just curious to see over the season what he's going to do to try to replicate that. Um, and I also thought it was very interesting to see. Okay, Rutherford without Tendi sort of became his own Borg, like robotizes himself. But what will we see now that Tendi's back, and will we see that relationship blossom? It's just like there's so many things that could and might have to happen because we only have, as you said, 8 episodes.
Yeah, and I mean, you do have to wonder. I mean, Rutherford has had a lot of things messing with his head, and obviously Tendi has been his North Star from the get go. Um, so, what direction is this going to go in? Well, I mean, we can hope that it goes into a very happy future for Rutherford and Tendi. That you know their relationship blossoms, and maybe the final episode is them getting married. Who knows? That's a possibility. Yeah. But playing on the Boiler thing, when he started out 4 or 5 years ago, his big driving thing was he wanted to get promoted. He wanted his own ship. Well, what if he finds out that how he got to the position his counterpart got into on in the other universe, maybe he doesn't like that. So
Bingo.
maybe he decides that, okay, I have a choice now. Either I can advance my career and get where I'm going if I do this or that, or I could just stay where I'm at and, not lose anything.
Maybe somehow he's the person who framed Alt Universe Captain Freeman, and that is why he goes to Starbase 80.
Maybe.
Wouldn't it be ironic if Boiler himself ends up being put in charge of Starbase 80? It
I don't
would
think
be a
that would be
command,
much of a promotion.
but it's a command.
It's a command, but probably pretty awful, and given the fact that where we were 5 seasons ago and everybody kind of was like, oh yeah, the Cali class was not supposed to be the most glamorous, but certainly that has changed. I mean, that you'd have to consider the Cerritos at this point a ship of the front line,
Yeah.
that she has earned her place. And I mean, I think that says something about Captain Freeman and her crew, that they've worked hard, and this ship that everybody else in Starfleet just thought, well, that's just a generic, easy to build workhorse. But now it's been kind of going on, it's been undertaking stuff that you usually would assign a galaxy or a sovereign to. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what path Boiler takes. But I got a feeling he's gonna be Boiler. He's gonna be the good guy, because he would not sacrifice Mariner, Tendi, or Tallinn, or Rutherford, or Captain Freeman, or anybody else, or Ransom, or anybody. He's too good, and I think he'll find a. I do think Boiler is going to find a path forward.
So we are at the point in our conversation that we make projections for what might happen during the season. Uh,
Yes,
I will start us off. I believe we will see at least one more time Agamas.
I believe we will see Agamas. I believe we will see Peanut Brittle. I believe that we covered a few things, but I think we will find out. There's a chance we might find out why the Romulan Homestar blew up, and we might even find out what happened to the Enterprise E and why it is not Worf's fault. I mean, all you got to do is get Michael Dorn to come in for a few days to voice Worf, and we've got a show here. I'm sure he's very curious about what's going on.
Do you think that we will see Deep Space Nine one last time?
I hope so. I really do. I bet you anything that Armin and Nana are raring to go again. I would not be surprised if Alexander Siddig made an appearance.
That
And
would be cool.
maybe oh gosh, I just blanked here. Our two Daxes, Jedzia and Terry Farrell and Nicole. Maybe they'll be back. I mean, there's any possibility. I would love to have as many of the remaining cast members of Deep Space Nine come back. Um, it'd be really awesome if they had to go through the wormhole and had to talk with Cisco. But I don't know if Avery is feeling like coming back. I mean,
Don't think he is. Don't think he is.
yeah, I call Meany has kind of hinted that he feels like his time as O'Brien is over. Even though he loved it, it was a great thing, and it led to so much in his career. But I think he feels satisfied that that he's turning the page on that one. But hey, Patrick Stewart said the same thing about coming back as Jean-Luc Picard, and look what happened there.
True, true.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, maybe the opportunity to get to work with his old friends one more time might talk him into coming, sit down in the studio and doing a voiceover. You know.
I think the big mystery of this final season will be what did Carol do to get sent to Starbase 80?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. That's going to be the big one that we all want to know about. We want to know why Carol in the other universe ended up there. I have a hard time believing that she would have intentionally done anything so egregious, but I guess we're gonna have to wait over the next few weeks to find out.
That we will.
Yes.
And so, as we lean towards the end of our premiere, thank you everyone for tuning in on the new night, the new hour. We'll see how it works. And Josh, do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Okay. As long as you're not a bill collector or anything like that, you can find me on my Facebook page, Josh Pritchett Jr. I am also the chief organizer of the Northern Virginia Star Trek Meetup Group, and we are approaching our 20th anniversary. We are still one of the longest active meetup groups in the Northern Virginia area. I'm very proud of this fact. And, we are, very active in all things science fiction, particularly Star Trek, but we also love Doctor Who and Star Wars and other things. So if you're interested, look for us on meetup.org. That's the Northern Virginia Star Trek meetup. And we'll be happy to meet you. So, Chris?
Thank you, Josh. For any of you out there who've had a pleasure to meet at any of the local cons in the DC area, I may have taken your picture, and you can find me at Verde Cosplay. And I'm very happy to say and share with all of you that I took third place at the Baltimore Comic Con inaugural cosplay photography contest.
Yeah.
So
congratulations.
Thank you. Very
Yeah.
proud of that. Thank you to Harry and the other organizers. And I encourage any of you who are cosplay photographers, Baltimore Comic Con next year, send in your best shots, be part of the cosplay photography contest, and you too may win. So until then, and next week, peace and long life.
Live long and prosper, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.